One of the hardest things an Apex Legends player can do is to pick a main legend. Picking a legend that does not complement your specific playstyle can be a massive issue, and oddly enough, picking your main doesn't even start with the specific legend. We've got a lot of playstyles and legends to discuss, but it's important to know why you would even want to pick a main. The biggest reason, it is drastically helpful when you do go into engagements. You'll be able to rely on your vast experience with that one legend to help you win your fights. You'll know how that legend performs in all scenarios, and you will be able to play the game in your way, not the enemy's. Flip-flopping, or as I like to call it, ping-ponging between characters can end up with some very sloppy and bad results, and generally, you should try to avoid this. Playing the legend you want to play is always the #1 factor to consider. However, your main legend needs to try and complement the way you want to play, not the other way around. Forcing a legend to play in a specific way that does not complement their kit is going to generate a lot of problems for you and your squad. I've broken Apex Legends down into 8 main types of playstyles, but note that the class of legends, such as controller, skirmisher, and so on, doesn't per se dictate their playstyle. Lots of legends can also fit into multiple categories, but oftentimes they have slight differences, and we will call these out. The most typical and straightforward playstyle in Apex is our first category, and it's the fraggers. There's no one better to start with than Fuse. Fuse is pretty much the prototypical elimination and damage farming legend, and by far the best pressure legend in the entire game. Fuse's primary role is going to be this creation of pressure through his tactical knuckle cluster, and secondary to this would be his ability to farm damage. The endless clusters all game long are going to keep enemies from advancing to your position. Fuse is great at using his abilities to force enemies to move, letting you to push up or rotate into zone. If you want a legend who is all about grenades and explosives, he's going to be the one. Fuse's partner in crime and our second fragger is going to be Mad Maggie. Maggie is more so an entry fragger legend first, and second to this, a pressure legend. It is, however, the riot drill that will lend her to quickly and accurately force movement on enemies that are behind cover, so her and the squad can move up entering the fight. The Wrecking Ball ultimate only enhances this entry damage, and her passive ability lets her see enemies for a brief second as they do take damage, again, all letting her take the fight and start it off on the right foot. Maggie is going to be the legend for you if you are truly all about full sending. The most typical and straightforward fragger in the group, but not necessarily the most useful, is going to be Ballistic. Straight up, Ballistic is an eliminating machine. All 3 of his abilities help perform this with a passive third weapon, tactical that stops enemies from being able to shoot as it causes their guns to overheat, and his ultimate lets the third sling weapon become fully kitted. The entire team also gets unlimited ammo and faster reloads during this ultimate ability. Ballistic is a really great pub and the limb farming legend, but for ranked, he doesn't really bring anything to the team that is truly going to be needed. Ballistic is kind of that wise old guy who just loves his guns. In the opposite sense, we are now moving to the defensive legends who excel at controlling space, anchoring the team via holding a spot, or just straight up turtling, making it impossible for enemies to push in. Wattson is one of the best area control legends in the game. This is going to be because her tactical fences can be put down in an infinite number of ways for the complete flexibility and control of your area. Whether it's a singular door, cliff sides, or high ground, she's going to have you covered. Second to just controlling area, Wattson works great as an anchor legend since she can hold that power position for the team while they do scout and move around, and unlike many other legends, she also has a third or tertiary role, which is support, as her ultimate generator can regenerate the team's shields and help in controlling space since it does stop all grenades and ordnance from working in its radius. Wattson is going to be more effective in ranked due to the slower game environment and falters a little bit in the more faster paced and mobile pubs, but if you are looking for the complete control of your area to get better placement and think more strategically, she's the best. Not as good at controlling area, but Catalyst is another defensive legend that is absolutely worth using. Catalyst's primary role is really going to be defensive in nature, allowing her passive fortification of doors to stop enemies from advancing, and this is supported through her tactical spikes, which also will deter enemies from pushing in. She has a little rotation and fighting power with her ultimate wall, but Catalyst's secondary role is going to be turtling. There really isn't any other legend in the game who can make it as annoying to push in as a Catalyst, since she can't just continue to rebuild doors over and over, and if it breaks, enemies oftentimes still have to deal with the tactical, and before they get rid of those spikes, you can't just rebuild the door. Need better placement in ranked, she's going to be the one for this, or if you just love to hot drop and fight in buildings, she's crazy OP for this as well. As I stated at the start, many legends can fit into multiple categories and playstyles, and Newcastle is absolutely one of these. For this video, Newcastle gets a defensive role as his abilities are mostly focused around this. Secondary is going to be support as his passive revive, and the knockdown protection shield is going to help you defend and support the team, keeping them alive. But it's going to be his ultimate castle wall that that will assist in controlling space and holding positions of height and creating some fortification. His tactical mobile shield is also going to help defend his squad, and it can be used in a ton of different ways, from peek firing around it, supporting the passive revive, or just defending the team while they loot or rotate. Newcastle mixes together a few play styles, so if you are interested in defensive, support, and maybe even a little fragging in there, I would give him a try. Let's now move into the support playstyle category, which is all about team play, healing the squad, and some other miscellaneous types of support. Conduit is actually going to be the most typical team healing legend that can be used during combat. Her tactical allows teammates to have temporary shields applied to them, and her passive helps her keep up with the team via a speed boost. Her secondary or third type of role is going to be to control space, as her ultimate can greatly help slow down enemies or stop advancing enemies from pushing you. Playing Conduit is all about sticking close to the team and monitoring their health and location so you can zap them and give them those temp shields to continue the fight. If you want to be very present and active in your fights, then Conduit is pretty great as a team support legend. In a similar vein, we also have Lifeline, who is Apex's first true support legend. Lifeline has evolved over the years, and today her playstyle revolves around keeping the team healthy post-fights and keeping your squad alive with her remote revives. Reviving a player while clutching up fights is insanely satisfying and useful in any mode of Apex. Her tactical healing drum is awesome to save inventory space. Her secondary role is going to be resource management, as getting extra batteries and attachments through her ultimate care package is pretty nice. Lifeline leans more into the pure support role than Conduit, and I would say to use her if you want to be a true team player. I'll also note that she is rumored to get a massive rework soon, so stay tuned to the pinned comment down below and keep note of this if you are watching in a later season. Most legends, however, don't really ever go through fundamental changes, so this video will be relevant for pretty much ever. The last support legend is going to be Loba. Loba is truly your queen of loot management in Apex. If you want to be all about getting the best gear and speeding up your pace of play by not running around to loot as often, she's going to be the one. This all revolves around her ultimate black market, which you can place down, see what's around, snag 2 items and unlimited ammo, and keep it moving. Additionally, seeing high tier purple and gold loot with her passive off the drop through walls can be pretty impactful. Unlike the other 2 support role legends, Loba also has some nice movement with her tactical bracelet to keep herself and the team alive, as she is one of the best legends for getting out of bad situations. I would use Loba if you are struggling with your aim, maybe you're newer to the game, and you still want to be useful to the squad. Our next playstyle contains a set of legends who are some of the most tactical in their playmaking and provide a ton of team utility through a variety of ways. These are legends who I also think require a little bit more thought when you are comparing it to the others in Apex. There's no one better to start with than one of the OG powerhouses, Gibraltar. DB provides a primary role of pure team play through his dome shield and a secondary role of being the team utility man via his gun shield and his ultimate bombardment. Gibraltar's dome shield does require an insane amount of game sense to understand when it's really the right time to use it, but the uses it has are incredible. Assault enemy teams, revive teammates, temporary cover, and the list goes on. His ultimate is great at forcing movement or creating some relief for the squad, but truly, Gibby's tac and ultimate require a lot of timing and knowledge to know when to use it, because if you do waste these abilities, it's a big deal as the cooldowns are fairly long. If you're looking for a mix of being relied on by your squad mates and a utility user, he's the one. Less of a team play legend, but one of the most unique in the game is going to be Mirage. Mirage is all about deception, which absolutely means you need to be tactical in how you make your plays. It's his ultimate ability that really makes him shine. Popping around the corner and then taking a fight as enemies are puzzled is pretty hilarious, but it requires good movement and timing. The amount of ways you can also use his tactical singular decoy is pretty impressive. Just know to make these plays, you need to have a deep knowledge of the maps, the legend you are going up against, and your overall positioning. Mirage does have a very small bit of team support through his invisible revives, but I find this to be fairly negligible when you do compare it to his playmaking capabilities. At Mirage's core, it's deception and trickery, so if you want this, there is no one better. If you're a mathematician, Rampart oddly is going to be a great pick for you. This may sound odd, but it's Rampart's ability to understand the maps, angles, sight lines, and overall positioning that will make her excel in combat. All of this is through her tactical amped walls, which are useful to both deal extra damage and control a little space, which is her secondary role. Ramparts need to be a little bit more mobile and understand when to drop the walls to make the most out of it, which means timing is also pretty critical. I'll also state that her ultimate, while it's a killing machine minigun, can be pretty tactical on its own to make some plays by breaching through doors, providing covering fire, or just mowing over your enemies. Rampart is going to be for you if you want a passive aggressive legend by pushing up, place the wall down, wait for enemies to walk into your sight line, and then mow them over. One of the newer additions to Apex Legends, Alter provides a very unique mix of tactical playmaking and movement, while also fusing in a little bit small of team play through her reset capability via the ultimate. Her ultimate is nice to create regroup points or even transport the team through a bad spot, but it's her tactical portal or rift that she can place that makes her shine. Being able to drop this thing, go through walls, floors, gain high ground, and more in an instant is pretty insane. It does require some creative thinking, but if you are up for the challenge and you want to mix up this movement and team play and playing in a little bit more of a thoughtful way, she's pretty solid. I do want to mention that it is okay to not have a main legend. While playing one legend over and over is a good thing, as you build a ton of experience and familiarity. Playing 3 to 5 legends and really getting a solid grasp on this set of legends you have will make you more adaptable in your playstyle, more flexible in your squad composition, and a better overall player. So if you aren't sure who to play and working it out, pick 3 to 5 legends, give them all a try till you know more about how you like to play. If you have any questions though, drop a like on this video and comment down below. I will help you out. There are not too many of them, but I do have a few team leader or in-game leader legends to mention. These are the legends who are a bit more versed to scout around with their abilities, which in turn helps them understand the flow of a match in a game. Wraith has pretty much always been the prototypical in-game leader or IGL even since the early days of Apex. Her primary role is absolutely being a scout through her ability to use the tactical to phase out and get back to safety, while she also has some team capabilities through her ultimate portal. This portal can be solid to take fights or just rotate through bad situations. It can also be used to help her to get to hard to reach spots and see if it is worth the team traveling to that location. While her kit of course lets her scout and be this leader, it's fair to still take fights, but it's not going to be quite as powerful as some of the other movement or fragger legends. Valkyrie also gets the role of being a squad leader. Wraith might be incredible at ground transportation, but Valk's incredible when it comes to controlling the skies. Her passive jetpack allows her to greatly take height and figure out the lay of the land, while also being more formidable as a general combat legend. Her secondary role is going to be movement, since her passive is this literal jetpack, but also her ultimate lets her transport her team around the map, bypassing many sticky situations. This is more so needed in ranked, but it can be fun in pubs to take more fights. She does get some tagging of enemies as you are deploying, which again only helps her ability to scout out enemies and control the flow of the game for your team. If you are all about air superiority and team movement, she's going to be the one for you. One of Apex's more satisfying types of play revolves around movement. Many of the specific and dedicated movement legends can be considered IGLs, but also many of them are great fraggers. With this, we move into those legends who are all about moving around the battlefield and styling on their enemies. A legend who has literally been relevant since her Season 7 release nearly 3 years ago is Horizon. Horizon's passive lets her get better in-air movement and turning, and her tactical lets her fly up a lift, meaning she can be extremely elusive. These two things combined also make her a great combat and fragger legend. Her secondary role, Horizon's black hole, is not quite as powerful in terms of ultimates, but this does enhance her playmaking capabilities. I think Horizon is probably the best movement and fighting legend in the game when it comes to a pure combat sense, so if you want to take a ton of 1v3s and still be useful for some team movement, she's pretty good for this. Slightly more tuned for team movement, we do have Pathfinder. Horizon's movement is a bit more linear since her tactical lift only goes vertical, but when it comes to the most atypical movement in the game, there really isn't anything better than Pathfinder's grapple. It's great as a getaway tool and a tool to enter fights. Unlike Horizon, Path's ultimate zipline gun lets the squad rotate great distances in an instant, and this simply just reinforces why Pathfinder is such a great team legend. The biggest thing holding Path back is going to be his hitbox. He is very easy to beam, and this absolutely affects his viability when you get to the top of the meta. Players are way more accurate. Path is going to be one of the more stylistic legends, so if you really want to style on enemies with sick plays, definitely use him. Revenant's primary role these days is still movement, but he also has some viability as a tank type role for the team. Starting with that secondary role, his ultimate gives him a nice health or shield boost, and while it isn't as impactful as it once was, this boost in shields can make him and the entire team more formidable. If he's the first to enter a fight, it's very hard to one-mag a Revenant with this ultimate shield boost. As for Revenant's primary objective, this is where we start to see the first legend who is a pure flanker legend. This is because his passive higher climbing can be incredible to get to those harder to reach spots and make plays on enemies with unforeseen angles. His tactical leap will just help reinforce this. If you want to be more of a stealthy assassin type legend, Revenant was literally bred for this in the lore. Our final movement legend is going to be Octane, the most pure movement legend in the game. Simply put, Octane is all about speed and more or less recklessly flying through the air via his ultimate launch pad. Octane's pad is also nice for some quick rotations to get faster and better positioning for the team, but in general, it's kind of more for getting angles and taking some fights. Octane's tactical stim is that ability for speed boosting, and while it does take out some of the health from Octane, it can be pretty difficult for players to fight an Octane who is stimmed up and strafing, as they aren't used to the speed. If you're looking for a carefree playstyle with a need for speed, check him out. One of my favorite playstyles in Apex is going to be those who prioritize intel gathering. This in general leans to those recon legends, but we do only have 2 legends who I think are best fit for this playstyle. If you are looking to big brain Apex and get as much information as you possibly can while still being a decent pressure legend, you are going to want to try Crypto. Everything for him revolves around his tactical ability, the drone, which is a problem on its own, but at the end of the day, if you want intel, his drone is so good for this. Not only can you fly great distances to get that intel, you can also see how many teams are around via the signs, open loop hills, open doors, call outs for your team, and just scan enemies whenever you want. Crypto also is not too bad as a pressure legend, as his ultimate EMP can be incredible for wiping out basically every defensive legend's ability in the game, letting your team push in and make plays. I don't want to sugarcoat it. Crypto is one of the harder legends in the game to get used to and actually be successful with, but if you enjoy being a very active player with lots to do and look at, he is a blast once you do get him down. Second to Crypto is going to be Seer. Seer is more about gaining specific enemies' whereabouts through his passive, which means his intel gathering is more limited to his immediate surroundings, but being able to see who is within 50 or so meters at any moment is a pretty big deal. Not to mention ultimate to help the team fight and monitor enemies' locations ain't too bad either, and a tactical to stop enemy abilities and gain more intel via enemies' health status is pretty good for fighting as well. Seer's secondary role is going to be his team fighting playstyle, so if you want a more passive aggressive legend who can take some fights and be informed, he is solid for this. If you are a little unsure as to your playstyle, or maybe you want to mix different playstyles, we now have my hybrid legends who contain legends who are fairly evenly mixed between 2 or more types of play. One of the best legends in the game and an OG is Bangalore. Bang is probably the most pure hybrid legend in the game. She can kind of be used for everything. Her tactical smoke can create cover, support the team, be used for push plays, or just rotating, and pretty much her ultimate can be used for all of these things as well. Her passive double time is great to push fights or get away, and at the end of it, Bang is really solid if you aren't quite sure how you want to play the game, since she can do a little bit of everything. Bangalore's core, I would say, is all about being militaristic and having that smoke and gun type of feel. Not quite as versatile as Bangalore, but Ash combines together a unique mix of in-game or team leader with passive intel gathering and fragger or movement properties. I don't think Ash is necessarily OP, but her ultimate is absolutely great for getting the squad high ground in an instant, while her tactical can help trip enemies up to make some fragging plays. I don't think her passive intel gathering is needed, but it can help dictate the flow of the game, as seeing where enemies are dying is pretty impactful to let you know to move there or to take a fight or avoid that spot if you want better placement. If you want this quick, fast-paced action with a little bit more of an informed playstyle, then Ashe is going to be pretty good for this. She's also pretty edgy if that is your thing. Vantage is here for your recon, fragging, and movement mix. Vantage is honestly one of the most unique legends in the game, as truly no one mixes together these 3 things in the way she does. Her passive intel gathering is great to identify whether you may want to or may not want to take the fight, as seeing enemy shield status is pretty huge. Her tactical is decent to gain high ground, although maybe a little bit slow compared to some of the other movement legends, and her ultimate is nice to lay down shots on enemies and really provide some entry fragging opportunities via big damage or even a knock. Vantage is absolutely Apex Legends' resident sniper legend, and the one for you if you do enjoy always being on the end of the long gun. Gas Daddy's recent viability has been all over the place, crazy overpowered, then nerfed and overpowered, and a little bit more tame these days, but Caustic mixes together both area control and pure fragging capability. Area control comes through Caustic's tactical gas traps, and while he is amazing at holding up buildings or taking certain choke points, the gas traps can be used to take fights as well. Trapping forward can be a viable way to mix up your engagements. The true fragging of Caustic does come from his gas ultimate, and I would also say his size, as he is fortified. The gas grenade is insane at forcing movement on enemies to gain positioning and to take fights, while also not being too bad to drop in an emergency. If you want this mix of fragging and area control, Caustic is here for you. Switching gears back to intel gathering, we now have Bloodhound, who is also a very strong legend in Apex. Bloodhound mixes together information gathering and fragging capabilities. Tactical scan is literally wall hacks, and whenever you can see exactly where enemies are through surfaces, the entire team is more formidable. Second, this is going to be ultimate, which highlights enemies in red, meaning easier spotting of foes, and the speed boost is incredible for combat. Bloodhound is so good if you want to go into a killing frenzy, take a lot of fights, and you want to channel your inner natured beast. Don't forget to drop a like if this video is helpful. Check out this video on screen for more ways to improve in Apex Legends, and as always, happy gaming, legends.